Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep. That's how I like it. That's the feeling I want to have on a supposed to be Monday, but Tuesday afternoon after a Ravens game. Maybe it might even turn to Sunday. I don't know. Anyway, that's the feeling. Like, we all like a good victory Monday/Tuesday in this occasion. But I still think there's work to be done. All right, what is going on, good people? Back at it again, DJ, right here. Flock Nation Speaks. Little recap of the game. I'm a little late this week, but nonetheless, it's crazy how I think I got my video out for last week before this one, even though I traveled further last. Anyway, just forget it. What is going on, good people? The Ravens ended up getting the win against the Patriots at 37-26 against the Patriots, a tough Patriots team, tough Patriots defense. In a game that it looked like the Ravens came back to their senses a little bit after last week, right? Like last week can be one of two things, right? The blowing a lead like that against the Dolphins can be either motivating or backbreaking. And I think the Ravens took it as motivation, and it starts with the leader of the team in Lamar Jackson, the guy who is just putting on a show, right? He just putting on a show every week. I mean, the Ravens going to have to just give this man a blank check and let him write whatever number he wants to write on it. I don't care if they give half the team's salary to the man at this point. But for real, though, 5 total touchdowns from Lamar Jackson. That's 4 throwing that thing. That's 1 running that thing, right? So, I mean, he did his thing, man. He did his thing. I would say he responded, but the Ravens didn't lose because of the offense last week, and that's, they didn't lose because of Lamar Jackson. They didn't lose because of Bateman. They didn't lose because of J.K. They didn't lose because of Mark Andrews, like a big drop or nothing. Like none of that. Like none of that. None of that happened. Like they didn't lose because of any of those guys. So for me, the offense did what the offense has done, and I think honestly, what the offense has done pretty consistently under Lamar Jackson. I think last year, kind of more so. I think 2020 was the worst offensive year for the Ravens, where they weren't really putting up points. They weren't finishing drives. They weren't able to. They were in a lot more close games, so they weren't able to put up the yards and the points that they had put up in 2019. And coming off a record-breaking season, it's a little bit hard to do such a thing. But this year, it feels like they're actually closing out a little bit more now, albeit we saw last week, was as Engraving would say, a big yikes, right? But at the same time, it felt like the defense played a little bit better this week. The good part about it is, even though it still feels like they're giving up chunk plays, it still feels like they're giving up a lot of points. The good part about it is they're getting turnovers, and that's something that probably over the last 2 years for the Ravens defense has been missing. For a couple years there, like I think it was like 2 or 3 straight seasons, the Ravens were turning everybody over. They were getting at least 1 turnover every single game. And now it seems like, the past 2 years, right? 2021, 2020, it felt more like they couldn't get those turnovers anymore, right? Especially last year, a lot of it was injuries, stuff like that, but it felt like they just weren't getting those turnovers anymore, those game-changing plays that then the offense ain't got as far to go, that are just so big. They swing the pendulum so far to the other side. So this year, it feels like, at least, because even last week, they had what? Was it 3 turnovers that they forced last week, even though they gave up all those points, right? It was all for nothing. They picked off Tua. I know it. They picked off Tua twice, and I want to say there was 1 more turnover in that game. But still, like, you got multiple turnovers. You should be winning that game, right? So with this week, they turned over Mac Jones. They did a good job, even though he did hit some big plays to Devontae Parker. but it felt like when they switched Marlon onto Devontae, it was a little bit better. I want to see them be. I know it's hard because you got young guys out there right now, and Marcus Peters, who looked about as good as he's looked coming back. Just the second game back, he's probably still not healthy, I'm sure, at this point, but he looked a lot better this week. He looked like he was ready to go. He looked like he looked like he was ready, and I think he even was in on one of those turnovers, which Marcus Peters is always MP Juice Man is always the guy who's going to be turning you over. So I think I think the thing about the defense right now is they got to limit the big plays. I want to see some teams nickel and dime the Ravens, right? That's what I want to see. That's been a big issue for the last couple of years. It's been the big plays, at the wrong time, right? And I want to see what is going to happen when those big plays are lessened. But nonetheless, a good win, I think, from the Ravens on Sunday. I think, especially heading into the Bills game this week, which is going to be probably the toughest one that they face. Yeah, considering, the Dolphins were tough, but I think the Bills is going to be the toughest opponent that they face so far. And of course, the Bills being one of the top teams in the AFC, the Dolphins making a case for potentially being one of those two. The Ravens want to be, in that conversation. You always got the Chiefs in there too. You never know what's going to happen with like the Chargers and the Broncos and those guys too. So, the AFC, we've talked about it plenty of times. The AFC is stacked. It's absolutely stacked, and you don't know who's coming out of the AFC. So this is a good this week coming up, and I'll probably say it in the preview when I do it. This week coming up is a big week. It's not a must win by no means, but it's a statement game, right? It's a statement game to say, okay, we ain't just playing around about being best in the AFC. We for real about that. And going back to the Patriots game, Lamar just had a game, didn't he? 218 when it came to passing. What did he have rushing? 107. Leading in passing, leading in rushing, kind of looked like last year. Like, I think people forget that too, man. Like, Lamar was playing at this type of level last year, but people forget it because he got hurt on a passing play, which people also forget that he got hurt on a passing play because people want to say that he got hurt on a running play, but he wasn't. But it was anyway. But JK was back, which was nice. He didn't do too much, but I think sometimes just having a guy back is good enough, right? Because JK is going to get back to his old self, right? But just having him back made the run game just feel that much better, right? He only had 7 Ks for 23 yards. What's that, 3.3 a K, which is not terrible. But at the same time, like, just having him back, I think just made it felt like there was a spark in the run game, right? It felt like there was a spark in the run game just having him back just a little bit, just because he's a guy who's capable of breaking it, and especially once he gets healthy, he's gonna break one. It's gonna happen because it's JK. JK is one of those guys that I think sometimes we feel like, maybe we reached to get him, or maybe we shouldn't have got him when we got him. But I think given his production, especially because we had Gus back then too, and of course Gus is on his way back. I would love an update on that guy, right? But I think to see Gus get back, into the fold too, I think will be big. But the offense played well. Bateman didn't do too much this game in terms of like receptions. It was mostly Mark Andrews with his 8 catches for 89. But Bateman didn't do nearly as much as he usually does. But he had big catches, right? He had two for 59, which is almost 30 a pop. That's pretty good. Bateman has shown like his ability to get yards after the catch and break tackles and run away from people. Like, he has shown that ability, and he's also shown, and I was hearing about this a lot too, and you can physically see it, breakaway speed. He's shown that he's got the speed to go along with the ability to catch the football and take some contact and be that guy. He's played well. Duvernay, another guy he only had 2 catches, but they were big catches. Duvernay, he just comes off like the type of guy who is going to make a play regardless of how you get him the football, right? Like, he is going to make a play. If it's special teams, if it's receiving the ball, if it's on an end around, it don't really matter. Duvernay is going to get involved however he can. And I would still love to see what happens with guys like Demarcus Robinson as they kind of still try to fit into this offense, because Demarcus is the new kid on the block, right? So you don't see Demarcus as much because DeMarcus is still learning the scheme. DeMarcus came in late. He came in last week of preseason. He's still learning the scheme. He's still learning about all of this stuff. So to see what he's going to be able to do with some of his double move route abilities and curl and, yards after catch abilities, once he gets going, I think it'll be good too. Whenever Prochet gets healthy, I think it'll be nice too, because we ain't seen much of Tylan Wallace either. He ain't really been doing much of anything, or at least he hasn't gotten his opportunities. It doesn't feel like he hasn't really been on the field. He's been a guy that I think a lot of Flock Nation has felt like, okay, he might break out this year, but right now he ain't really getting the opportunities or ain't showcasing it. I can't really tell, but I don't see him on the field very much. It's usually what Bateman and Duvernay mostly, more than anything, and Demarcus Robinson in there too. So to be the fourth guy coming in, it's sometimes hard to get, especially because the Ravens, even when they do run 5 wide receivers, they don't necessarily run 5 wide receivers, right? They run usually like 3 wide receivers and a tight end. Well, that's only 3 wide receivers and 2 tight ends or something, or 3 wide receivers, a tight end, and Patrick Card in the slot. But anyway, y'all know what I'm saying. But nonetheless, I mean, I think the offense looks good. Nobody's worried. I mean, I haven't been worried about the offense since Lamar Jackson took over, right? Like, I have not been worried about this offense since, like, I haven't had to worry about it. That I don't think we barely had any of those like typical defensive games where it's like 10-3 at the end of the what was it, 5-2. We haven't had anything like that, like we saw on Sunday night, I think it was. Like, we haven't had anything crazy like that in a while in Baltimore. So I think the offense is fine. And the defense, on the other hand, and they look good. They look good at times. They showcase some things here and there, but I think at the same time, the defense gotta, they just can't keep giving up big plays. It felt like Devontae Parker was just destroying the defense at times. Like it, and it always feels like guys are wide open, right? Not knowing every single formation and every single play that the Ravens are running, because just not looking at it that deep yet. It just feels like guys are just open. Guys are just open, and it's a big deal, especially when you got a guy like Stephon Diggs coming to town. I hope they do something. I don't know what they're gonna do with Stephon Diggs, but like, that's one of those situations where I'm like, let's do something to create havoc where somebody else got to beat us. I don't want to talk too much about that one, but I mean, of course, like, that's the big one on the horizon. But Mac Jones still having 321 through the air was pretty. I mean, he showed some potential in the game, and it felt like he was dotting us up from time to time, right? Like, it was kind of like, I don't think Mac Jones is as good as Baker Mayfield, but it was kind of like how Baker would do with the Browns, right? Like, Baker would come in and like that's why, like, I can't really say anything bad about Baker, because Baker dotted the Ravens up plenty of times, like so many times in the past. So that's why I'm not necessarily like sitting here like, oh yeah, Baker, like, no, Baker has dotted the Ravens up plenty of times with those receivers he had. But Devontae Parker played well, and they didn't have Jacoby Myers this game, so it'll be interesting. It would have been interesting to see how they would have defended that. But to see Stephon Diggs next week, I think will be very interesting, considering how Devontae Parker did against this Ravens defense. I kind of do want to see, like, if they're gonna match up Marlon on him a little bit. They can still give him help, of course, but match up Marlon on him and see if Marlon can take him out of the game a little bit, at least on a couple of plays, maybe on the big plays, right? Maybe on the big third downs, big second down, something like that, and see what they can do. But I feel like yeah, that's right. The one pick that they had, I think McCourty was the one that got that. The wily vet McCourty, right? Like, he played that ball so perfectly. Like, I can't even put that one on Lamar. Is the issue. Like I want to, but like, because it's a pick, right? You want to be like, oh, come on, Lamar, don't throw that. But like, it was just a good play by McCourty. It was just a good play by McCourty. But I mean, nonetheless, man, I think the Ravens did bounce back. I want to see what this defense is gonna do. Definitely gonna have a Ravens Bills preview. It should be a lot of fun, man. I think it's gonna be interesting. I already been talking to one of my buddies at work. He about the Bills and how they, he already talking about Josh Allen, the GOAT, and all that. And then I should have sent him a message after he skipped that ball. After he skipped that ball to the flat, but I didn't send it to him. But of course, it's gonna be a tough game, and of course I have a preview for you coming up very very soon. But as always, as I wrap up, as the Ravens get their kind of return game almost, right? They kind of got their, not revenge because they didn't play the same people, but they bounced back. They was at the trampoline park, right? They bounced back. The Ravens bounced back this week against the Patriots. And for more Flock Nation Speaks content, be sure to listen to Flock Nation Speaks on Apple Podcast, Anchor, Spotify, etc. And you can watch on Facebook and YouTube if you are so inclined to do so. Be sure to hit that subscribe button down below too. Sometimes I forget that I'm primarily on YouTube when it comes to that, but hit the subscribe button, the like button, the heart button, the share button on whatever you may be watching or listening on, and be sure to do that for me. Do me that big favor that takes literally half a second. Do that thing for me. But as always, definitely hope you guys enjoyed. I'll be back later on this week with the Ravens Bills preview. It should be a good one. Until next time.